guys? Welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Not with Mac and Griff today. Mac is out this week, so that means we brought on Gerard. Once again, familiar face to the channel. He's going to be filling in today. Basically, just another, basic, simple episode. There was some big news in the NFL this week. Obviously, the Sam Darnold trade went down. But first, we're going to cover something that we didn't cover actually yet. We were going to cover it on OTA clips, but we ended up not doing that. So instead, we are first going to discuss the national championship game. Obviously, happened about a week ago. Is not the newest thing, but we'll still touch on it. The Baylor Bears obviously went out and disrupted Gonzaga's undefeated season. They beat the brakes off of the Bulldogs, 86-70. All around, Baylor just played a really good game. Gerard Butler, that dude is, he looks like an absolute star. Davion Mitchell capped off a great tournament. I'll flip this to you, Gerard. What were your thoughts overall in this game? Even the Final Four in general. I don't even know if we talked about the UCLA game on this channel. That was a crazy great game. Overall, your thoughts on the finale and the tournament as a whole.
I really thought the tournament was a really good one this year. There were so many upsets, so many things. That UCLA team went on such a great run. They got to the Final Four, and they went toe-to-toe with the best team that I thought was the best team in the country. Clearly was not in the national championship, but they went toe-to-toe with them. In the national championship, Baylor just dominated from the word go. They started off with like a 7 or 9-0 run. It was like 9-0. And I think from that point on, there was just no way that Gonzaga was coming back. Baylor was too experienced or too much of a good team. I think that Davion Mitchell is going to be a great prospect in the NBA. I would really like the Thunder to draft him because I'm a Thunder fan. I'd really like to see them draft him. He's going to be a lottery pick, and so, as well as Gerard Butler. And with Gonzaga, Jalen Suggs, he had a great tournament as well. But Gonzaga just really wasn't ready to play this national championship. I don't think they were ready for the speed, the shooting, or anything of Baylor.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said there. Gonzaga, I think, it's tough to say because, Gonzaga did play some strong teams. You look at their tournament run. First round obviously was a joke, but, they played like an Oklahoma team. They played just looking at them, they played UCLA, which was, really good team. Look at it, like you mentioned, that UCLA team with Johnny Juzang. That kid is, who knows if he'll stay or whatnot. They had the J. Cole looking kid. I honestly forget his name, like Tiger Campbell or something like that, I think. He played great. They had so many good guys. I've seen things now for next year's rankings that they're like the top team, which I think is a little excessive. Because, I don't think when like Loyola Chicago made the tournament, made the Final Four, they were, a top team. So I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit. Definitely a good team, but I don't know if they're going to be the best in college basketball next year. But, great run from them. And in terms of the championship game, like you said, Baylor just came out and they were just, too aggressive, too fast. And it was just not, it was something that Gonzaga just hadn't experienced. And you could tell, Baylor, Gerard Butler, this kid he's special. 22 points, 4 for 9 from 3. He played great. Davion Mitchell, though, was their best player in the tournament, I think. This kid was all over the place. He did everything. They're so good on both sides of the ball too. This team defensively was just that was the difference maker. And we saw here that two of the top teams, but at the end of the day, both have good offenses. But which team would be the better defensively? And Baylor just shut down Gonzaga. I think for Gonzaga, they just Corey Kispert was kind of all over the place in this one. He really didn't have a great game. And Drew Timme, only 7 shots for me. This guy's been your best player in the tournament, and they're just not getting him involved. He really was not doing too much. I know he came out late in the game. He was a little banged up, so maybe that you can take that into account. But you got to get your best player involved more. Jalen Suggs, like you said, great tournament from him. I really enjoyed the tournament. I thought it was great. Some upsets that I didn't like, though. Ohio State one notably to Oral Roberts, but that team made a run too. They obviously beat the Florida team. So many good upsets. So I guess and then the next question for you on the subject of March Madness, do you have a favorite game or one that you think was the best game of this tournament?
I think the best game of the tournament was definitely Gonzaga UCLA. I was with my friends that night and we weren't really watching the game, expecting a Gonzaga blowout. And I turn on my phone. It's a 1-point game with a few minutes left in regulation. So we turn it on, all huddled around a phone. Watch it. It was a great game. It was a crazy game. And I think that was definitely the best game of the tournament. I think another really good game in the tournament was like the national championship was a good game. It was kind of a blowout, but it was fun to see the teams going up and down the court. And I really enjoyed that game as well. If I had to pick one more, though, I think my personal favorite was when Loyola Chicago beat Illinois, because that absolutely,
That was good.
absolutely destroyed everyone's brackets right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a good one. I think for sure that it's hard to say, the UCLA Gonzaga one wasn't the best game because that was just, I mean, that was crazy. I mean, I was with, like you said, I was with, family friends that night, and I was, one of them was asking me what I thought, the score of the game would be. I was like, Gonzaga was down a bit at the time, but I was like, they'll probably win by 20. And it was just not the case. I mean, they were just in a tight fought battle. UCLA really, really showed up. Obviously, Suggs hit that crazy buzzer beater. In terms of best games, I mean, it's hard. There were so many good games in this tournament, to be honest. Um, I mean, one that I comes to mind was, both of Oral Roberts games were really good games. The one with Ohio State was, a close game, came down to the end, went to overtime as well, that one. And as well as the one with Florida. That was a really close game too. Came down to the buzzer. So I really enjoyed those two games from Oral Roberts. Some of the other games, um, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, there were some really good games. I know Arkansas had one really close one. I forget who they played off the top of my head, but I mean, there was a lot of close games. Houston was in a bunch of close games. They played like Rutgers down to the wire. And Giroux was, banged up. I believe that was that game. But overall, I mean, just a really good tournament. I mean, we saw like Abilene Christian win games. I mean, it was just all over the place. You never knew it was coming. No way anyone was going to be predicting that perfectly, that bracket. So the Quest are a perfect bracket. Still remains, but overall, good to see that the March Madness, that's just March Madness back in session as a whole.
Yeah, I think it was really good, and that Arkansas Oral Robert games, I think that was the game you look for. Oral Robert played every team they played really tight.
Oh my God, dude!
That game went down to a
Yeah.
buzzer beater shot. Oral Roberts deserves some respect for this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, the Arkansas Oral Roberts game. I mean, and also the Arkansas Texas Tech came down to 2 points. I mean, Arkansas is just all over the place in this tournament. But yeah, I mean, some really good games. Oral Roberts, what I mean, that team. I don't know what the deal is with like Ahmet and Obenar if they're seniors or whatnot, but those kids can shoot and play. So it'll be interesting to see the future of that team if they can find their way back in the tournament. But we do have to move on. Obviously, that was a week's news ago. So we'll move on to something a little more recent, which is the New York Jets training Sam Darnold. The Darnold era is finally over. I saw that tweet resurfacing a lot, which was like, "Thank you, New York Giants," from Darnold's draft day. Freezing cold takes. Made sure to get in on that one. Tough end to the Darnold era. A guy who really didn't get much help. His best receiver was, a guy he's going to be paired up with now in Carolina, and Robbie Anderson. Carolina's got Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. I mean, ton of playmakers on that offense that, and great coaching, Joe Brady and Matt Rule over there, really going to help him out. But the Jets did acquire some draft capital. They got a 4th-round pick, and then this year, and then I believe a 2nd and a 6th-round pick next year. Maybe I might be wrong on the years, but I know in total, I believe that was what they acquired. So I'll start with you here, Gerard. What do you think overall on the trade? Do you have a winner for one side of this trade per se, and the outlook for both these teams in the future?
I think it's a really good trade for both teams. I mean, the New York Jets obviously had to move on from Sam Darnold this year. Holding the 2nd overall pick, you can't pass up on QB talents like Zach Wilson, maybe Justin Fields, even Mac Jones, maybe up there. I'm sure they're going to go Zach.
If they take Mac Jones, I'm down. I'm done.
I'm sure they're going to go. I personally love Mac Jones. He's going to be a good quarterback. But that's my hot take of the day. But I'm sure they're going to go Zach Wilson at 2. It's pretty much almost confirmed here. And they also got a 2nd, 4th, and 6th-round pick of it. They now have like 21 picks in the next 3 years in the first 3 rounds or something like that. Some crazy number.
Yeah.
It's insane. And with Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater isn't a quarterback that can be starting in the NFL. He's not a top 32 quarterback. Now they got Sam Darnold with weapons with Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson. I think Darnold will thrive in this offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good trade for both sides here. With Darnold, I think a fresh start was needed, clearly. He never really got a chance with the Jets, to be honest. I mean, you just look at, they do have a guy like a Robbie Anderson, but they just let him walk. And the O-line was always a disaster. I mean, he was always under serious pressure. He never had a good running back. I mean, the Lev Bell disaster that unfolded there was a mess. I mean, they just made all the wrong moves. So, they wanted a fresh start. They didn't want to, keep him, have to commit to that. But Carolina clearly is committing to him as their franchise QB. They picked up his fifth year option. So the plan is for Sam Darnold to be there. And I think, this year will be really telling for his career. It's a huge year for him. He'll finally get a chance to play with some real players, to be honest, and not some stiffs coming off the streets. Like who were some of those guys? I mean, they just had stiffs. I mean, Chris Hogan's corpse was playing for them last year. They had Braxton Berrios was like the 2 for half the season. I mean, what a disaster it was for the Jets. But he's now got a plethora of weapons, top running back in the game, great coaching. So couldn't be happier for Sam. But for the Jets here, like you said, this team just keeps, collecting and collecting draft capital. I mean, next year they already have 2 first-round picks. They added another second to that. I'm reading that the 4th is next year, the 6th is this year. So they're just, adding more draft capital. They already have multiple firsts this year, multiple thirds. I mean, this team's going to be really exciting to watch in the future. I mean, GM Joe Douglas has done a great job really of reconstructing the roster. You look at the roster, guys for the future, it's kind of unknown right now, man. I assume Mekhi Becton, Quinnen Williams took some good strides. Marcus May is one of the top safeties in the league. So those are kind of the building blocks right now. And obviously Zach Wilson looks to be the guy. If they take Mac Jones, I'm not going to, I'm out as a fan. We'll definitely have to have you on for, some more, maybe we'll even touch on it later in this, but Mac Jones at 2 would be a colossal reach in my eyes. But yeah, I think it was a good trade for both teams. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I guess, my next question to you here on the topic of Darnold for Carolina now, obviously the Jets still years away probably from contending at least. For Carolina, do you think this move puts them in a spot where they can compete with teams? Obviously, it's a tough division. The Tampa Bay Bucks, New Orleans Saints, still expected to be good. Do you think the Carolina Panthers this upcoming season can compete with those top dogs in the NFC South?
I do not. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to run away with that division at like a 14-2, or not 14-2, 14-3, 15-2 record. I just don't think it's going to be close. I think the Atlanta Falcons are still a good team, even though they had 4 wins last year. I think they're better than a 4-win team. And New Orleans is still bringing back Jameis Winston, who's going to be a good quarterback this year, along with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, who didn't play at all. And they still won, 12 games last year. I don't think Carolina's going to be able to compete in that division. But I do think they are moving in the right direction.
I don't think they'll compete for the title, but I think this team could compete for a wild card spot. I agree with you. I think this is Tampa Bay's division. I think, this team really made I think after that Kansas City game, they really started to figure themselves out. And from then on, they really didn't lose many games. If, one, they might have not lost after that game to the Kansas City during the regular season. I mean, this team really figured it out. And I don't think they're going to lose the division, but I do think, New Orleans, they lost some key guys. Breeze, I don't know. We'll see what Jameis is. We saw him in that one game, but other than that, we don't know what Jameis Winston is going to offer. Obviously, they do have Taysom Hill still, who is a great guy. He does everything for them. So I expect the Saints to be good, a playoff team for sure. But some injuries happen, and who knows what you're looking at with the Saints. But for the Panthers, I think the key for this team is going to be that defense. I think the offense is going to put up points. I think Darnold's going to have success. This defense is still really young. I mean, last year. They used every pick in the draft on the defensive player. So if those guys can really make strides, I mean, we already saw Derek Brown looks good. Jeremy Chin looked good. He had some, touchdowns this year for them. They already have some proven guys. I believe Dante Jackson's still there. Shaq Thompson, Brian Burns, obviously probably the star of that defense. So if this team can keep making strides, some of those younger guys who maybe didn't have the best first year, make some big strides second year, and they obviously will keep adding in the draft. I think this team could be really good. I don't think they're a division winner right now, especially in the NFC South with the Bucks there, but could they make the playoffs? Sure. Why not? It's a tough NFC, obviously. So it's going to be tough, but at the end of the day, the Bears made the playoffs this year in the NFC going 8-8 or so. So, the door's not completely closed. It's going to be a little competitive though. NFC is especially the NFC West. All 4 of those teams could be in prime spots to make the playoffs. So going to have to be a tough team, but I think Carolina could squeeze into the wild card.
I could definitely see them squeezing in there, but I think my New York Giants will get in before they do. So gotta go for the Giants there.
The Giant. I thought you'd say the Giants are division winners. That you don't have them running away with the division.
I don't have them running away with the division. I mean, the Washington football team is going to be a good team, and I always have to remember the Dallas Cowboys do have Dak Prescott coming off injury, but Giants are going to get in some way, somehow. Super Bowl champions.
Well, I like what you're thinking. And, on the topic of the Giants, um, we can actually talk to some draft stuff. I know, this is kind of random, but the Dallas Cowboys have recently been in the news that Jerry Jones is infatuated by tight end prospect Kyle Pitts. Obviously, Dallas already has a stacked offense. We know that. Dak Prescott's coming back from that big injury. Offensive line is going to be healthy. Who knows how long that will last, though. So, Jordan, I'm going to, ask you this. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys, if Kyle Pitts is on the board, or if they even trade up, which I think would be dumb, do you think they should take Kyle Pitts, or do you think this team really needs to focus on the defensive side of the football in order to compete with a team like the New York Giants that is a defensive machine?
I'm very high on Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts will be the second best player in this draft next to Trevor Lawrence. And I don't think he's going to be there at 10. I see no way he falls past 7, where Carolina's sitting right now, or 7 might be Detroit, 8, 7, 8, 9. I think he'll go
Yeah.
between there. I don't see any way he falls to 10. But if the Cowboys were to trade up to him, I'd be very fearful of that Cowboy offense.
So you think that's a better move than maybe sitting back and taking like a J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, someone to help for that secondary?
I mean, the Cowboys do definitely have glaring holes on defense. And Blake
Yeah.
Jarwin is not a terrible tight end, but I do fully believe that now I'm blanking on his name. Kyle Pitts, sorry, is going to be the second. He's going to be the second best
Yeah.
player in the draft, and I think that if you trade up to get him, it'll show great rewards.
I think Dallas is in a bit of a harder situation than last year, because last year on the board, they were picking further down. I don't know if it's 15, 14, 16, somewhere in there, but CeeDee Lamb fell to them, and CeeDee Lamb, was regarded as such a, highly offensive talent. People were like, oh, no way he gets there, but he did. And there they were deciding between him or, Clavon Chason. That's definitely botched, but Chason, who is on Jacksonville now. They were signed between those two, and no offense to Chason, but he's not the prospect that these certain guys who's been like the best corner in the NFL, or J.C. Horn, promising young guy. I don't think Caleb Farley will go that high because of the injury, but he could be there at 10. You don't know, so it's harder because I think one of those corners is going to make more of an immediate impact, and really could be a superstar corner, one of the best corners in the league. I mean, their potential is sky high. But with Kyle Pitts, I mean, he, like you said, he's a superstar. I'm super high on Kyle Pitts as well, and I think it'll be interesting. I think with Pitts, I don't think the Bengals will take him. I think the Bengals for me now are between Sewell and Chase. If the Falcons don't take him, and I mean, the Falcons, who knows what they're doing? People have said they might trade out. We don't know. If the Falcons pass on him for maybe they take a quarterback, or who knows what happens. I mean, I could see him falling to 10, and it's just going to be interesting to see. I think if Kyle Pitts is on the board at 10, I do believe the Cowboys have to take him. I don't think you can pass up that kind of player. As hard as it might be, I think that offense would just be unstoppable. And I think that's what you're looking at. If you add Pitts to, an offense with Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott, I mean, that's a nightmare for any defense. I mean, that's something else. But it'll be really interesting to see if he does somehow get to 10, what they will do. I think Jerry Jones would take Kyle Pitts, but I don't know. I mean, Surtain, J.C. Horn, those are some pretty elite prospects, but it'll be interesting to see what happens for sure.
Yeah, Jerry Jones does love his bling, and I think Kyle Pitts definitely has some bling to him. So don't be shocked if he goes to the Cowboys at 10 if he's there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I'm going to ask you about this last thing on the draft before we go talk about some MLB, because you did bring it up, and I'm curious. Mac Jones, so you're super high on him. You mentioned him for 2 for the Jets, which I found interesting. So, in your eyes, where do you have Mac Jones on your board for quarterbacks? And obviously, it seems like the first 2 picks are locked in. So, I mean, do you think the San Francisco 49ers should pull the trigger and select Mac Jones with that 3rd overall pick?
I think that, well, with Wilson, just to talk on him, I'm not fully sure. Zach Wilson. I'm not fully sure that Zach Wilson's going to be all that the Jets are all that Jets fans are saying he's going to be. I think he's from BYU. He got hurt, so it is a risk to take him, but if he gets the right coach, he's definitely going to succeed. With Mac Jones has the possibility to be a great NFL quarterback and has the possibility to be a quarterback that just won't even be in the NFL in 3 years. I am very high on him, and I think if you give him the right coach, maybe in a Kyle Shanahan offense, he will be great. If he doesn't go to the 49ers, if he falls into the wrong system, he's not going to succeed. So I think two systems where he would really succeed are that 49ers system. And if he falls to New England, that New England system would really be good for him. I think Mac Jones in the right system is a very good quarterback, but if he's in the wrong system, he won't be good at all.
So I guess if I had to, ask you another question, where do you have him compared to, a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance per se? Assuming those top two guys are locked in, regardless of what you think on them, where do you have him comparing to those other two guys when, the QB uncertainty starts to unfold? What do you think, where does he fall on your big board, I guess?
Right now, I definitely have him. I have him equally graded with Justin Fields, and I have Trey Lance below both of them. I mean, 1-2 punch with Trey Lance. It's 1A, 1B with Justin Fields and Mac Jones, and then Trey Lance is definitely below them. I think either team can get a great quarterback, but either team could get a really bad quarterback. Both those guys definitely need to fall into the right system.
All right, that's interesting to hear. I mean, I think I agree with that. I think, the system is going to be huge. I think, with Mac Jones especially, I don't think, he's a guy who can go to, any system necessarily and succeed. I think, he's got to have the right coaching staff. And I think, if there is a team, Kyle Shanahan and his crew are, the right team to take him and take that risk if they really do see something. For me personally, I mean, I've been over it on the podcast. I'm just not huge on him. I mean, there's obviously the athleticism, which, is lacking. But for me, I mean, also, I mean, look, he's a great passer. He's accurate. You can't, shoot him on that. He's got a great arm. Can't knock him on that. But, I mean, you look at the weapons he's had in his career at Alabama there, and, just comparing it to, let's say, like a Justin Fields, he had, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy in the year before, Henry Ruggs in the year before, Najee Harris will be, should be a first round pick. So, Justin Fields, looking at him and the numbers Justin Fields put up, which were, arguably just as impressive, if not more, especially dating back to that, the prior year, obviously struggled this year with in those games against Northwestern and Indiana. But Justin Fields, he's had, oh my God, who do you, I mean, he's had Chris Olave, obviously, who, first, second round pick maybe for a receiver, but Garrett Wilson, who who knows where he'll end up knocking out. Dobbins, second round running back. O-line, Mac Jones definitely had a better O-line. He'll have more first rounders or second rounders there. So for me, I just I'm a little worried about Mac Jones also in that in terms of talent, he was he had riches surrounding him. He had the best coach arguably of all time in college football. I mean, he was just in such a good system, and you can look at that and say, well, he's going to be set up better for the NFL with in terms of coaching. He's going to be well prepared, but I think it kind of, what I'm alluding to is kind of like what we've been saying here, which is that it needs to be the right situation for Mac Jones. He's not going to be a guy who can just go, anywhere and you plug him in. I think he's going to be a guy who, if he does end up with the right situation, he could, could he replicate what he did at Alabama? We'll have to see. We know what, his talent package is. I don't think he's going to make any, glaring, changes to his game. I don't think he's going to become a scrambler, obviously. So, we kind of know what, he is, pocket passer. And, we'll see what happens. But I think, the key for him will be finding that right system. And for me, I'm just more high on like a Justin Fields per se. I mean, you can say it's biased because I'm an OSU fan, but for me, I think Justin Fields overall, he could be arguably the most athletic quarterback in the class. I mean, he's running like a 4.4, which is crazy. The arm strength certainly there. It's just, question of, people have this illusion that he can't throw past the first receiver, which is, silly. That's dumb. But, there are some concerns that Justin Fields isn't quite NFL. I don't know if he's not NFL ready, but that he might not translate well. So I don't know. It'll be tough to say. We'll see what happens. That's kind of what I got. But Mac Jones definitely not as high on him as you are per se, I'd say.
Yeah, just a wait and see game at this point. I mean, most teams probably have an idea where they're going, so you just got to see.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if Mac Jones does go at 3, what happens with Trey Lance and Justin Fields? I mean, where do they end up? Does one of those guys fall to New England? Does Atlanta take one? I mean, it'll be really, Philly was rumored to be maybe taking a quarterback. Maybe the Giants pounce on one, trade Danny Dimes away. Who knows? Who knows what could happen?
Danny Dimes win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years. You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. All right. Freezing cold tapes. We'll have to make sure to bookmark that one. But with that, I guess we can translate a little more into final thing we'll really cover on today's episode, which is just the MLB really has kicked off. Teams have played, 8, 9 games. The Mets have only played 5. The Mets have been a disaster. I'll touch on them in a bit. But I know you're a big Yankees guy. 3-5 right now, I believe. They're in a game with the Rays right now. I don't know what the score was. I know they were losing when we came on here. So far, any things that, stood out to you about the MLB season, about the Yankees specifically? What are your thoughts on their performance? Really just, anything in terms of the MLB.
The Yankees are a disaster right now. You're supposed to be the best team in baseball, and you're 3-5. You lost 3 straight. You're losing 3-4 to the Rays now. You're about to get swept by the Rays. I don't know. And Aaron Judge already been out for 2 games with the oblique soreness. Urshela is out. Gleyber Torres can't play shortstop to save his soul. It's brutal. It's brutal being a Yankee fan right now, and I hope I come on here in a week and we're 10-4, and it's completely possible. But the Yankees just do not look good right now. The only thing that is promising from the Yankees right now is that Gary Sanchez does not look as bad as he's looked in the last few years, and Aaron Judge is hitting 346 right now in a 6-game period, but 346 is still pretty legit.
Yeah, Gary Sanchez, I like that point you brought up. He's looked a lot better. I mean, he had those first 2 games and it was looking like outrageous. He's toned it down a little bit, but still playing very well. Yanks actually just tied it up. Just see Gleyber Torres RBI base hits. The Yanks did tie it up. So that's good for them. Yeah, Yanks are in a weird spot. Domingo Germán got optioned the other day down to the alternate site. I think that guy's just, it's time to go with him. I think the fact that they even brought him back was a bad move in my eyes. With obviously his off the field, actions, and that's not acceptable. They traded for Odor, which was, that was a weird one. It's weird seeing him without the beard. He just looks not
crazy.
Good. I think.
Sorry about that. Today we just traded away Theo Estrada for cash considerations, which I have no idea why. Yeah.
Who'd you trade him to?
San Francisco for cash considerations, I'm pretty sure.
Really? That's an interesting move. So I mean, with the Yankees, I think as it's been the past few years, it'll just be health. And right now, it hasn't been the best sign. You obviously have, some guys in the bullpen. Britton, I believe, is banged up. Voigt's out for a while. Stanton is due to get injured. I hate to say it. Obviously a talent, but he's still healthy. 8 games in, that's pretty good. Judge, already is, on his way to an IL stint, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, he's back in the lineup, so who knows? But we'll see. Yankees, their pitching is also another thing. They're starting pitching. Kluber doesn't look, he had a good first start, doesn't look amazing. Obviously, you know what you're getting in Garrett Cole, second best pitcher in New York, probably in baseball, honestly, at this point. Not the best. Jacob's the best. I think that's the definitive.
I think that's in the video for another day, but I think that Garrett's closer than people give him credit for.
No, Garrett's not close. Garrett's far. Stanton's batting 9th today. What? That's weird. But I think I like a lot of points that you brought up, and we'll see what happens with the Yankees. Glaber's got to get out of short, though. He cannot play there. He's got to go to second. They got to figure something else out, because that is, it can't happen. I don't know what with LeMahieu, I don't know, Gio Urshela, if he could play shortstop, that'd probably be the biggest thing for them. And you just rotate the infield around. But Gleyber is not a shortstop, let's just say.
No, that Didi would have fit perfectly in this lineup.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I wanted Didi so badly. Lefty bat and a great shortstop. He would have hit perfectly. It's one thing that Cashman missed on this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Yanks have a lot of good players. One thing is, Hicks, I'm not big on. I think they signed him that 7-year deal. He's got to go. It's tough because you can't really put Stanton in the field, and you need him to be in the field so you can have that DH spot, because you got all those, infielders and whatnot. And that would have allowed you to sign Didi and whatnot. But tough situation there, but it happens. But on the flip side of New York, we've got another mess as well. The New York Mets have been a disaster over the first 5 games. We've had the classic Mets ending, on the first game where DeGrom throws a gem, they blow it, the bullpen, the newcomers, of course. They did decent in their second game. Third game was just a blowout. They beat the Marlins in that weird game where they're just not hitting. I mean, that's the end of the day. And then the DeGrom start was just, it's a disgrace what happened yesterday, but I'm not even going to discuss that. I don't even want to relive it. But the Mets, the key for them right now, they're just not swinging. They're just not hitting the ball. The only guy who's had productive at bats throughout the season has been Brandon Nimmo. He's on a tear right now. That kid, he's playing great. But I mean, Lindor is struggling. Conforto's a mess. I mean, this dude has left like a gazillion guys on base. I mean, it's a mess. Pete looked good, but the Marlins series, he slowed down. Dom Smith's been all right. He's not been bad. McNeil has, hit the one home run, but that's literally been it. He cut the hair though, which was weird to see. He's got rid of the locks, so he's back to the buzz cut, I think, which is sad to see a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he'll start hitting. McCann's just been good in the field but can't hit. I mean, it's just no one's hitting. It's really weird. I don't even know. I mean, it's just like you expect so much out of that lineup. So good. It looks so good on paper, and it's like just what's happening is like, I mean, they're hitting like 140 with runners in scoring position. It's just like, it's sickening to watch. Honestly, that's the way I'd put it.
I mean, the Mets, they've been the same way for the last 5 years. Every year you come in with these lofty expectations, and then they don't hit. DeGrom throws gems, and they lose games for DeGrom. I mean, he pitched what 8 1-run innings or one run in 8 innings. Gave up
14 strikeouts.
14 strikeouts, 4 hits or something, and he still lost the game. I mean, come on, that man must feel miserable for himself.
Jacob DeGrom right now has more hits than Jeff McNeil, has as many hits as Michael Conforto, Francisco Lindor, James McCann. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Like there's nothing to say about that. That's crazy. I mean, Francisco Lindor, he'll turn it around. Pete's going to be a 250, 40 home run guy. Jeff McNeil is the biggest surprise to me this year. He's been so good for the last 2 years, and now he's just batting 0.077. That's like
he's had good contact in his defense. He's just nothing's fallen for him. So I think he'll hit that point where stuff starts to drop and he makes some adjustments. But Conforto's been the biggest mess. I mean, that dude, you got to think if the contract's maybe in his head that he's playing for a contract and maybe that's in his head, but he's got to figure it out because the way he's playing. I mean, he got dropped in the order today. They're obviously, it doesn't look like they'll play it. Probably get rained out. Still in a delay for like 3 hours. So I don't know why they haven't called it, but that dude's got to figure it out because right now it's unacceptable for him to be swinging the bat like that. 3 for 21 with like 100 men left on base. I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's both the New York baseball teams are not looking too good right now.
No, both are under 500 and not doing the best. So we will see what happens with that. Obviously, some other storylines. The Joe Musgrove no-hitter was interesting. Good for him, good for the Padres. They got their first no-hitter in franchise history. Trying to think of any other things. I mean, there was obviously that Ohtani start on Sunday Night Baseball, which is pretty cool. Seeing him hit a homer, throw over 100 miles per hour in the same game. I mean, it's pretty crazy what that guy's doing. I mean, any other MLB things that stood out to you over the first week or so of the season?
Not too much. That no-hitter was cool, and Ohtani is just a different breed, but not really. The teams that are supposed to be winning, besides the Yankees and the Mets, are winning. And the teams that are supposed to be losing, besides everybody in the AL and NL East, are losing. So, yeah.
Well, it's been a weird season kind of to start in the MLB, but it is good to see fans back in the stands. It was funny to see 40,000 people at like the Rangers game. I mean, it was good to see though. I mean, it's positive signs. I mean, the UFC is going to be coming back with full fans soon. Obviously, the Usman Masvidal fight is it's approaching, as well as I believe Jake Paul and Ben Askren are set to fight next week. I believe that is ready to go next week.
Jake Paul's. Don't be shocked if Jake Paul wins that fight in 3-4 rounds.
You think you might knock him out in 3-4 rounds?
Jake Paul is a very good boxer. I think Jake Paul's a very good boxer.
I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think, can't believe we're discussing Jake Paul on the podcast, but they're discussing it on ESPN and stuff. So I think it's okay. But I think it's, I think no one's going to deny that Jake Paul is the probably better boxer out of the two of them. I don't think Askren's a better boxer, but I just think it's going to be a long fight. I don't think Ben Askren's just going to get knocked out by this dude. I mean, if you look at like Ben Askren's fight with like Robbie Lawler, like that was like, the fact that dude was even alive after like the slam and then the constant punching, and then he went on to win the fight. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this dude's been in wars. Obviously, he's most known for like that Masvidal knee, but you can't give him too much like crap for that. I mean, anyone's going down on that. That's something 1 in a million type shot right there. So I think his toughness is going to be the thing. And Jake Paul, he's never fought a guy. I mean, you look at the amateur fight with like Deji or whatnot, but whatever. That was like a 5-round fight or something like that. But in his past 2 fights, he's knocked guys out in the first, second round. So if he gets into, it's an 8-round fight. If he gets into the 5th, 6th, 7th round, that stamina is really gonna, we're gonna really see what he's made of. And I think it's gonna be a big fight for him. If he ends up knocking Ben out, and like you say, in 3-4 rounds, then that's huge for him. And what's next for him? I don't know who would be maybe the best fit guy for his journey. He obviously wants to fight McGregor, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. That's probably a few years away if that happens, at least in my eyes. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly, the thing for me is, I think if Askren's going to win, it's going to be like a decision. So can he get like 4 or 5 rounds? I mean, it's just going to depend on what kind of type of fight it is. I mean, so your prediction is like 3rd, 4th round JP knockout?
Yeah, I gotta go JP knockout in the 3rd, 4th. I'm with the Paul brothers, and I am a Maverick for life, but I gotta go with Jake on this one.
Oh boy. If I had to predict, it's hard for me to predict. I mean, I think in the first 3 rounds or so, I think it's Jake Paul's fight, but I think after that, I think it's going to be Ben Askren. So I'm going to give Ben Askren the decision victory over Jake Paul, just to mix it up. But I mean, that JP knockout definitely is. It's possible. I just worry about Askren's a tough dude. He's not going to be he's not like a Nate Robinson or a Andy Sun Gibb kind of guy. This guy's not going to go drop after he gets touched for the first time.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I think that will do it for this episode of Outside the Arena. Obviously, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do that, as well as follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Outside the Arena over there. Make sure to follow us both on Instagram. My Instagram is Griffin Senyek. Gerard's Instagram is
G.Garofolo.
And Mac will probably be back next week. Gerard, expect to see him on a lot more too. Gerard's a good buddy of ours. We love having him on. So I'm a pleasure having you on once again this week, filling in for Mac. But with that, take it easy, guys, and we'll see you next week on Outside the Arena.